Welcome to the ACC Panic Room alongside Lauren Brownlow. I'm Joe Ovies. NC State and North Carolina in action tonight. Let's start with the Wolfpack. They get the win over Virginia, as we all predicted.
Listen, the thing is, okay. If Virginia were not coming off of two straight losses, yeah, I might have just gone out on the limb and done it. But that in and of itself was I don't know. Virginia doesn't lose 3 in a row. It's at home. They know State plays them well. And that's the thing is State always does play them well.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. It's actually something that we talked about earlier today. Julio and I were talking about that. We had a Hey Joe question, and it was somewhat tongue in cheek from one of the listeners saying, how it was like, why is NC State going to win tonight and by how much? Just kind of calling their shot.
Yeah.
And the only point that I made was I didn't expect State to win tonight. But if you look at Kevin Keatts' tenure at NC State, they have been competitive against the Cavaliers for
Absolutely.
whatever reason. Again,
yeah,
that's one of the things that has remained he can't beat Georgia Tech, but he plays Virginia pretty consistently. Regardless, to me, the story of the game, other than them managing to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot yet still come out with a victory. Because the last minute there for NC State was a comedy of errors. There was the review on the out of bounds only for them to then turn the ball over out of bounds and give the ball back to Virginia. And there's some separate conversations about Virginia's offense really being stuck in the mud here as of late. But I think, and this gets back to Hey Joe questions that we tackle on the show, every time I put out the call for Hey Joe questions, I will get a question about Kevin Keatts at NC State. I will, and I know you see this too in your mentions as well. And it's always,
yes,
is Kevin Keatts going to be the coach next year, or what does Kevin Keatts have to do to get people off? It's all these things. Y'all just don't really want to have any patience whatsoever when it comes to Kevin Keatts. The program was not in a good spot when he took over, and there's been some growing pains along the way. But let's have a little patience here. And if you're wondering what direction the program's going in, or can he coach, or how's the team doing, I think you can look to how they got crushed by Duke, which was a pretty low point for NC State so far this season.
Yes.
And then to bounce back with a, skin in your teeth win against Pitt, taking care of business against a Wake team that gave them opportunities to crush them with all the turnovers and everything else. And then holding on to beat a good Virginia team, not an elite Virginia team, not one of their best teams, but a good Virginia team that's well coached and typically doesn't make mistakes. So I've been impressed with the turnaround from the Duke loss to where they are now, and this team seems to be playing a little bit more cohesively than we've seen. And this is called growth. This is a good thing for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, and I think one thing we've seen too with all the freshmen throughout the year, it has been there's not a steady arc. With the freshmen this year, we've seen some, steps forward, some steps back.
Yeah. It's been an adventure.
And I think that some of that is COVID related. And I think it's taken a longer time than even normal for freshmen to sort of really feel comfortable playing in the ACC. Just look at, Walker Kessler's the great example of this. He looked lost on the basketball court a couple weeks ago, and now he looks much better in North Carolina side. But you see that from Cam Hayes and Shaq Moore, and they just feel they're comfortable making the plays they need to make. And NC State would have had every single reason to just kind of pack it in, every reason. They know it's not likely they're making the tournament. It's still not super likely at all that they make the tournament. It's really not likely, but that's not the point. And they're playing like they genuinely just want to win games. And they're having a good time. And it's nice to see that. It really is, because they've been through a lot and they've toughed it out, and they've just kept sort of plugging away, after the Devin Daniels injury. Really, the Duke game, like you said, was the only time they got blown out. They were close against everybody else that they played, or they won, and they get rewarded for it. And it's nice to see that for them.
No, that's nice to see for NC State. Now the question is, what do they do going the rest of the way? They've got Pitt next, which Pitt has a separate conversation to be had with Xavier Johnson deciding at this point in time that he's going to go enter the transfer portal and not play for the Panthers going forward, followed by Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. These are all winnable games. for NC State. To your point about the NCAA tournament, I still don't. They've got too much work to do to even get on the bubble at this point.
Yeah.
But you can, stranger things have happened. If you're coming into your own, and I think they played 7 guys tonight. DJ Funderburk had a good game. Shaquille Moore had a good game. They had good inside presence against Virginia in that pack line defense, which was kind of non-existent for a good chunk of the time tonight. I think it was Agatha all along. She had been meddling with Virginia's defense this entire time. Right? So I'm not saying that NC State can go out and win the ACC tournament, but stranger things have happened in a pretty strange year.
Yeah.
They can build towards this if they're going to go to Greensboro and win. But I also know that with the ACC and the COVID season, what I might think on a given night will change tomorrow. North Carolina is a good example of this. North Carolina's been playing some pretty damn good basketball as of late. They just got done crushing Louisville on Saturday. And I thought that the Virginia loss was a bit of the anomaly, but we saw a little bit of that Virginia mistake-filled nature tonight against Marquette. They couldn't stop turning the ball over. Marquette made them pay for that. They did climb back into this game to make it somewhat interesting getting into single digits, but at that point it was too late.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in the post game. I forget who asked the question, but somebody asked. I think it was RJ Davis. Do you guys not even know for sure which team you're going to get on a night in, night out basis? And fair question. Yeah, I mean, look, Carolina's offense wasn't good. We understand that part, but the reason Carolina is where it is right now this season, and before this game anyway, comfortably in the NCAA tournament is.
Yeah, I think they are. I think I went from them being on the outside looking into, I think they've got enough good wins that they should be in the NCAA tournament. I mean, unless they completely just the wheels fall off, but we'll see.
See, the thing is, I felt that way before this game, right?
Okay.
Before this game, I'm oh, they're in. They just need to not screw anything up, and they don't really have many chances to do that, except for this one, and they did. And so now it's not so much that they have to win out or anything. It's not quite that dramatic, but it's more of a situation now where their margin for error just goes way down. Whereas the Florida State win would have been a nice feather in the cap, so to speak. Now it's kind of a must get. And the thing is, though, the reason Carolina was in this position in the first place, honestly, because we've seen the offense all year. It's been up and down, to say the least.
It has been up and down, yeah.
The reason they're in this position has been because of their defense, and their defense was non-existent in this game. I mean, this was the highest effective field goal percentage a team has had against them since December 30th.
Yeah.
And it's not an offensive team that's all that great. And Marquette, they're not terrible, but they're not all that great. You cannot let that happen if you're North Carolina. You just can't. And that's exactly what happened in this game. And that's the reason that they're in this position. Yes, the offense wasn't good. We saw it. We all saw it. But at the same time, the defense has been what's put them in this position, and the defense really let them down in this one.
I maybe I'm being kind to North Carolina here, or maybe I've just been broken by pandemic basketball. It's better to have scheduled this game, lose it, than to not have played any basketball at all.
Okay, so this honestly, to have loved and lost, and
yes, actually, yes, Lauren, yes, okay. Lauren. Well, basketball, with basketball, you play it, you use it, you get beat up by it, but you experiencing it. You're experiencing the basketball. You've lived your life, right?
That's fair. And
I hope Roy Williams has on somewhere in his office, Live, Laugh, Love, or something like that, or whatever the books are.
I'm gonna have to think of who the Marquette is for me in my analogy. What ex of mine would be the Marquette? I'll have to think on that for a little bit. But no, I hear you, and I don't disagree that playing in of itself is better than not.
It's the same. It's the same argument. It's the same argument it's the same argument I had when NC State found themselves in a position where they were looking at a good stretch of basketball or a good stretch of time where they have not played actual basketball. You can't practice. Practicing is not the same as playing. Roy Williams has said this. When NC State scheduled St. Louis, went on the road and they lost that game, State fans were all like butthurt about it. And it's like, no, you want to play basketball. That was a pretty decent game to play. Good experience. You had what? I think they only had 9 players dressed for that game. It's better to have played that game. It's better to have loved basketball than not, Lauren.
So better to have played, yes. And I get you.
Yeah.
But this is not the kind of loss you want to take when you're flirting.
Okay.
I mean, Marquette is 100 in net.
Yeah. No, Marquette's not a good team. Yeah.
And so here's the thing, when you play a team like this, and this Marquette team, like they were 10-12 coming into this game,
and Wojo's the coach, so like it's kind of like a transitive Duke win.
Well,
and Carolina fans don't want to deal with that.
I did tweet that Wojo should just screenshot Caleb Love's stat line and then text it to Coach K, considering Caleb Love went off against Duke and then did like nothing against Marquette. But no,
right.
I think what I'm trying to say here is like, it's the type, what I think ideally, if you're North Carolina, you want to schedule a game that won't hurt you if you lose it, or a team that you're not going to lose to. You know, like when Roy starts a press conference with, well, we were more gifted than they were, or whatever it was. Right. You know, there's a lot to lose if you lose to a team like Marquette potentially, and only experience to gain. I totally understand why they did it, and I know that they couldn't be choosy.
Yeah.
But it was in a tough spot too, coming after that Louisville game, like scoring almost 100 points. This is sometimes, like Marquette was like is Marquette the rebound? Marquette's like the rebound.
Sometimes you shoot your shot, it doesn't work out.
Right, but Marquette's the rebound in between like serious relationships. But the rebound, that relationship that goes like horribly badly or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what kind of rebound are we talking about here? I mean, it didn't really. No, I would imagine like typically with the rebound, you want to have some fun. So I guess Northeastern would be the fun rebound.
Right, Northeastern was the no strings rebound, the one that you can text at 3 a.m. and say you up, and they'll be up. You know what I mean? So, Marquette's the one that you text you up to. Y'all get together, and then Marquette's calling you for like a month straight and maybe finding you on campus to be like, why aren't you answering my texts? And you're like, oh, this backfired. This went very poorly for me.
That's like the tweet that I saw not that long ago that went viral, where it was a woman telling some guy, hey, you know what? I thought this would work out, but it's not going to work out. You know, appreciate you listening to me, moving on. And then the guy sends like 12 different DMs back. Like, I hope you never find happiness and whatever it is. That's Marquette to North Carolina.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, yeah, exactly. So like, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, you took a shot. You thought it would go well as like a casual fling, and it didn't. It didn't. Y'all weren't on the same page here. Wojo didn't get the memo.
So are you saying North Carolina is going to have to like block them on social media?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, got it.
If they have mutual friends, that's over now. And all for just a fling. Like, was it worth it? You know what I mean? This analogy is off the rails, but whatever.
We really have gone off the rails here. I mean, yeah, and I guess it wasn't fun for North Carolina, so it wasn't worth it at that point in time.
It wasn't fun either.
No, it was not. That was not. We should probably hit the eject button. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the ACC Panic Room. We will see you all this weekend with some more ACC action. We do know that I guess if Marquette's the rebound, if they beat Florida State, is that finding like what?
That's finding true love. Yeah, like
that's finding true love, or you're just at peace with yourself. You're in a good place for that.
Maybe, but I think that's more like you have a terrible breakup. You know, or no, you have like a great relationship and it ends on good terms, like against Louisville. I don't know what the equivalent is, right? Then you have the rebound thing and that goes poorly and you're like, oh no. And then you meet the love of your life if you get the win over FSU. Yeah.
Lauren, what was college like for you?
That's a separate video. That's for subscribers only. If we ever go Patreon or something, like that's subscriber-only content.
Is that a 10-part podcast series?
Not safe for air, probably.
All right. We will see you all this weekend.